Let's
welcome
give
Kevin
Kevin
Harrington.
a warm
Thank you.
welcome.
Hey.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Hey. Thank you. All right. So there's a little Shark Tank music, and I'll start with a picture of myself and Mr. Wonderful, right? How many recognize Mr. Wonderful? Okay, great. How many know why he calls himself Mr. Wonderful? Do you have any idea? No? Because nobody else will. Okay. He's the only one that thinks he's wonderful, I guess, you know? No, and by the way, Brandon, I wasn't even going to mention this, but a month ago, I get an email from my son. He's like, Dad, you and Kevin O'Leary just got sued and you're on TMZ. And it's like, oh my God, what's that all about? It all got settled last week, by the way. So it's totally, yeah, thank you. It was a ridiculous, I can't say any more than that, okay? But there's a gag order on the whole thing. But the bottom line is, you know, it's all behind us, and really excited to say that. Because it's not easy. There was 20 plaintiffs that I'd never met any of them. They sued me and Kevin O'Leary 3 years ago. We did a video, and I never met them, never talked to them. They never called to say, hey, we're unhappy. And so it took 4 weeks to resolve 20 individual lawyers and plaintiffs in a settlement agreement, which is a pretty amazing process. So we'll add to the mastermind how to get out of lawsuits too, okay? But anyway, Mr. O'Leary's my buddy. I'm gonna just tell a couple of quick background stories, and then I really wanna focus on video because this is what Brandon is all about, his creation of these video assets. And for me, it's been a game changer. I'm going to show you the first video that I ever actually shot way back in the early days. But people ask me about my background. My dad was in the bar business. He owned Harrington's Irish Pub. I started at 11 years old working inside there. I'm one of 6 kids, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm number 4. And unfortunately, when it came time for me to go to high school and college, my dad said, look, you know, the bar business is tough. You're going to have to pay your own way. So even high school, I had to pay my own high school education. So I started a driveway sealing business. I was 15 years old here. And then when I got to college, my dad said, hey, you got tuition, books, you're gonna move out of the house, you're gonna live by school. Yeah, I needed an apartment, a car, insurance. It was a lot of money for an 18-year-old kid. So I started a heating and air conditioning business, installing furnaces and air conditioning systems. And this was back in the 70s, because I'm an old guy now. So I said, I graduated high school in 1975. My senior year, I started this company. And what I did was I got all the leads of new homeowner transactions from the courthouse. We called them up. So those were the most qualified people ever. They just bought a new house. They had great credit. They had cash. We came in, we cleaned their furnace for free. Well, we got into 20 doors a week, and half of them were buying something from us. From zero, we went to $1 million in sales in 1976. And we had 25 employees, 6 of these trucks going out every day. By the time I got to my sophomore year, I had to quit school because I couldn't do both. I was running this business and all of that. But the reality is this. As an entrepreneur, sometimes you don't know if what you're doing is what you want to do the rest of your life, right? I mean, people come to me and, I'm running through an airport. They'll stop me. Hey, I've seen you on Shark Tank. Just one thing. What should I do with my life? I'm like, geez, how do I answer that question? It's in 30 seconds, right? I don't know. I mean, I spent 4 years building this business and said, I hate this business. It's so labor intensive. We could sell twice as many as we could install. We couldn't get installers. So I said, I'm out. I'm getting out of this. I was making a lot of money, but wasn't any good. I hated it. I hated walking into the business every single day because there was complaints from people that weren't happy with the installation because we couldn't get the right kind of installers. Plus, this was only going to be a local business, Cincinnati, Ohio. I wasn't going to be shipping furnaces and air conditioning systems around the country or certainly around the world. So I set out to sell the business, and I was sitting in front of a business broker. Now, has anyone ever talked to a business broker before? Let me see it. Okay, a few of you. A business broker is like a real estate broker, but they've businesses for sale. So I'm sitting there, he's got 200 companies for sale. Pizza parlors, delicatessens, flower shops, manufacturing companies. What did he have on each one of those? The books, the records, the sales, the percentages, the food costs, the financial statements, the tax returns, everything. I mean, I had the leases that they had with the malls. They had hundreds of business. I'm going through and I'm like, wow, I know what I want to do now. I do not want to be in this business. I want to be a business broker, because this is an education unto itself, having access to hundreds of financial statements and growth curves and all kinds of stuff. So here I said, I sold my company, and actually one of my employees bought it. I didn't even need to use, when I got back to my office and I said, I'm selling, one guy says, I'm buying, and we cut the deal. Literally within 2 weeks, we were done. I had a great little business. He bought it, loved it, and I became a business broker. But I went one step further, because I said, brokers, they sell the business, and what do they do from there? Nothing. They don't help that business owner. I said, I want to help these people because they don't know. We were selling businesses, and if they didn't ask for help, some of these people were closing them down in 6 months, right? So I said, no, we're gonna surround, and this is the dream team. First time I ever came up with the concept of surround yourself with an amazing dream team, right? What I did was I created the Small Business Center. I rented a whole floor of an office building in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I leased space to accountants, to lawyers, to advertising agencies, graphic guys. We had this whole thing filled up. We sold them the business. We did your books, your records, your jingles, your menus, you name it, we did it all under one roof. But I also took equity. I loaned money. I trade my commissions for equity. I invest money. I had equity in a dozen companies way back. And of course, Entrepreneur Magazine, they heard all about it, put me on the cover, and boom, when I was out there, Entrepreneur said, but Kevin, we are Entrepreneur Magazine. You're doing these entrepreneur centers. This is pretty amazing. Let's do them together. And we opened up 30 Entrepreneur Magazine small business centers all around the country. And this was back in the 80s, believe it or not, a long time ago. And then Entrepreneur Magazine sold. They stayed in business for many years, and eventually the new owners wound it down. But it was a great venture for me, and this became sort of my pre-Shark days. And I say the early days of really seeing many great business opportunities. But this is where the story gets really good, because I'm making money, I bought a house, I ordered cable TV. How many remember cable back when it first came out in the early 80s? Is there anybody as old as me? Okay, there's a few, right? Well, there was only 30 channels when you ordered cable. You know, today it's 500 channels. You can look at everything, right? Back then, it was 30. And so I get to CNN, 24 hours of news and HBO movies and MTV music. I get to the Discovery Channel, which is actually channel 30, nothing's on. And so just these colored bars. I called the cable company and I said, hey, look, I love cable television, okay? I'm getting CNN, ESPN, 24 hours of sports every single day, but nothing on Discovery. What's up? And they said, oh, Discovery, it's a brand new channel. They don't have a budget for 24 hours. It's an 18-hour-a-day channel. 6 hours is going to be this. And I said, well, not if I have anything to do with that, because I'm going to figure out something to put in there to do business with Discovery. And that's what I did. I was traveling, selling all these businesses. I'm doing a lot of trade shows, and I'm selling flower shops. I'm at the flower show. I'm selling restaurants. I'm at the restaurant show. Sold over 1,000 businesses, and just crushing it. I had 14 full-time guys cranking away, selling deals. And so I'm like, wait, I'm at this Philadelphia home show, and was selling a home and garden business. And there's one booth with this huge crowd around it. And it's like, if you ever go to a trade show and you see a lot of people surrounding one booth, what do you usually do? Kind of check up what's going on down there, right? And I had to tippy-toe up and look down. And there's this guy, Arnold Morris, he has a knife in his hand. He's cutting through a Coca-Cola can, through a muffler, through a pair of sneakers. It's the Ginsu knife. And he said, it's 1995, but wait, there's more. For the first 10 people that order this Ginsu right now, and I only have 10 available right now, I'm going to give you a second knife absolutely free, plus 6 free steak knives, a paring knife, and a bread knife, all for $20. And wow, I mean, this guy got rushed, including me. I bought a set, so did all these other folks, and I was looking to talk to this guy because I'm like, wow, that was powerful. Before I knew it, he's doing the same thing. He grabs more people, same exact pitch. Right through the muffler, through the pair of sneakers, through a Coca-Cola can, same exact pitch. And that's when I said, I got it figured out. This is what I'm going to do. Arnold got on break. I introduced myself. I said, Arnold, I said, you don't know me. I said, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've got a great idea for what you're doing. He says, kid, he says, wait a minute. He says, you think this is glamorous? He said, I do this 40 plus weeks a year. I'm here 8 days in Philadelphia. I'll be at the Iowa State Fair next week. This is a grunt business. Yeah, I make money, but what do you want to do? What's your pitch? And I said, well, do you know about Discovery Channel? He said, are you watching cable? He says, I don't get time to watch television. No, what is your interest? What do you want to do? I said, Arnold, I want to film your pitch, take it to Discovery, let's cut a deal, let's be partners and see if we can make some money together. And he said, look, if it takes me off the road, he says, when you're talking about putting this on TV, I don't have to travel, you mean? And I said, exactly. I said, this, we're going to put it up and let's hope that works. So this is the original clip. I spent $3,000 to film this, all right?
You take a tomato, the weight of the knife alone cuts that tomato. Let me ask you something. How many knives you have at home this sharp? You could drop the tomato on top. Pretty sharp, right? You know what one young lady said? Can you cut them thin? I said, thin. One tomato will last you all week long.
So this is just a 30-second clip out of a 30-minute show. But this thing went on to do such unbelievable numbers. I call it the world's first viral video because we sent this not only to all the TV stations in the US, but we also went international with it. And that's the next part of the story. Because if there's bars on the screen in the US, because cable was coming, same thing was happening in Latin America, same thing was happening in Europe, Sky Channel, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Dubai, etc. So I said to myself, how do I get this show? And now I'm starting to produce more. Because Arnold said to me, he said, Kevin, let me ask you a question. When you were at the Philadelphia Home Show, did you see other people like me pitching products? And I said, no. I said, Arnold, after I saw you, I was so excited. I went home. He said, well, there's 10 more guys like me. He said, I want to introduce you to Billy Mays, to John Parkin, to Sandy Mason, to all these other demonstrators of products. They sell automotive, they sell cleaning, they sell gadgets, they sell juicers, Jack LaLanne, etc. And so Arnold started introducing me to everybody, and I gave him a cut of the action. And it was unbelievable. So all of a sudden, I got 100 infomercials. We're doing, this is now $50 million a year in sales, when I was talking about earlier. And it was starting to go, but I said, I just felt like we would invest big money into a project. And we'd have to invest in the production of the infomercial, invest in the tooling, into the manufacturing, into the inventory. And every product went up, and then it went down. It was like a bell-shaped curve. And I said, that reminds me of what other industry? The movie industry. What happens with movies? They put a ton of money into talent and production and shooting the movie, and it goes up, and then it goes down in the United States. It's out of the theaters. But what do? They go international. They take it to the foreign markets. How do they do it? Well, I said, where did they find the distribution deals for international distribution for movies? At the Cannes Film Festival. Once a year, every May 1st of every year in Cannes, France, is a show where the entire television and movie industry comes to buy shows, to buy movies, to buy TV programs. And so I attended that show in 1990, and I took a booth out, and I said, I have 100 plus television shows, and I'm willing to pay you to run them in your market. And everybody's like, wait a minute, there's something strange here. You're going to pay me to run it? We buy the shows. We have to pay you. How can you pay us? I said, well, normally a movie company is going to license it, charge them to run it. Me, I've got an infomercial. I said, I'm going to pay you to run it because I've got a cooking show. At the end of the cooking show, we sell the wok and the knives and all the products in the show, and you get a percentage of all of that. And everybody said, wow, how fast can we start? We went from 1 to 20 to 50 to 100 countries of distribution. We're in all across Europe, Rupert Murdoch dubbing into all the different languages. So, and that's the next clip. People said, well, wait a minute, how did you get Tony Little into 100 countries? I mean, did you find a Japanese Tony Little, a Dutch Tony Little? No, we just dubbed him into the local language, just like this. Watch this.
Voeten stevig. Zie je hoe ze haar handen op haar middenrif heeft?
Niet achter je hoofd.
Nee, niet achter je hoofd. Ze moet zien wat ze aan het doen is. Niet zoals jij, ja? Omhoog komen, strak maken, neer. Met spanning omhoog, dat is het enige wat je hoeft te doen. Gaat
Is
om
dat
techniek.
alles?
Dat is het enige wat je moet doen om de rechterbuikspieren te isoleren.
Wat is die grafiek daar beneden?
Dat is de grafiek, die laat je 30 seconden per oefening op begin.
Tony, he loves watching himself in all. I mean, we did Tony Little in dozens and dozens of languages: Chinese, Japanese, Dutch, German, French, Italian. We're running at this point now 100 plus infomercials, literally in 100 plus countries. And so we needed a lot of logistics. We needed some really smart people, and this was also when I created this amazing dream team to support me in these efforts. And then we ended up merging into the Pubco I mentioned because I needed capital, and the stock was $1 a share when I did the deal, and in a couple of years it was up to 6, 8, 10, and went all the way north of $20 a share. We created a $550 million business out of what was the birth of the infomercial industry with the original shows that I created. So, so the bottom line is this, and this was now, you know, back in the early to mid 90s also. And so it was the first chance for me, as you know, there was two of us that controlled this company. We had 50% of the $600 million company, the two of us, the chairman and myself. I was the second largest shareholder. Got a chance to take some nice chips off the table, and the first exit for me as an entrepreneur was very, very cool because you got to work hard, but you also need to take your chips off the table. Just like Michael Scott was talking about earlier, they invested $30 million into a cannabis venture, and a few years later sold it for $110 million. So that's, you know, that kind of math works for me. So the bottom line is, I actually tried to retire around this time because I'm, you know, I had made a lot of money and was happy, and you know, I said, you know, do I need to keep doing all of this? But for 6 months, as I tried, I just kept getting deals and more deals, and like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to, you know. So, you know, it's been a lot of fun since. But I said to myself, you know, because I had sold this, I sold my interest, I sold my stock, I cashed out. I'm sitting, you know, with a nice position, and so I said I needed something new, something different. So I reached out to some mentors in my world, and this is, you know, we all get to a point in our life where we need to make some changes. We need some direction. We need some advice. And I think this is really what Brandon has pulled together here with the Rise and Record Mastermind, because we're going to be doing a lot of this stuff, a lot of soul searching on where your business is and what do you need and how can we help you and all of that, one-on-one. I mean, days like today, I'm here, but I can't spend one-on-one time with each and every person here. And, you know, so it's very difficult for me on a day like today. But once we get into the mastermind sessions, it's fun for me to dive deep in finding out more about your business. So the bottom line is, I went out to my mentors and I said, Tony Robbins I'd been doing business with for years because he had an infomercial and I was running it all across Europe and Latin America, and we were partners on the global basis. Guthrie Renker owned it for the United States, and I owned it for everywhere else in the rest of the world. So I've called Tony, I called this guy. How many know Russell Brunson? ClickFunnels, right? I called Russell before he started ClickFunnels. There was a buzz about Russell Brunson, and I said, Russell, I need help. I'm an old as seen on TV guy. You're this digital guy. Oh yeah, he helped me. But I also got a chance to go see Richard Branson. And so I went down to Necker Island. It was Halloween. He had a Halloween party. There we are at his island. And Richard and I are sitting there. It's like, you know, we did a, at night, you know, they would stay out till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't even drink. I don't think Richard, he may, but he's very probably moderate. And so I'm with him at 2 o'clock in the morning. He says, Kevin, he says, you and me tomorrow, 7:30, let's meet. We're going to go over all your stuff, okay? So, hey, let's do it. So I'm sitting with Richard, and he says, I'm telling him the story, and he said, I know about that Tony Little guy and that Jack LaLanne and George Foreman. You've crushed it. You've done billions. He said, and I thought he was going to compliment me, but he said, but boy, you have certainly failed in other ways. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, Kevin, he said, when I heard you were coming, I said, who's Kevin Harrington? I don't know who you are. Oh, he says, as seen on TV guy? I never heard of you. He says, you built Tony Little's brand. You built a Billy Mays brand. You built all these people's brands, but you forgot one person, yourself, okay? And I said, wow. I said, but do I need to build my brand? I made a lot of money and all. He says, Kevin, he says, do I need to build my brand? He says, what am I doing? I'm creating content. I'm writing books. I'm doing all this stuff. Boom, hit me square in the face. I came back from that meeting and said, yes, I'm going to do it. And I said, what's the first place to start? And of course, he was creating lots of videos and lots of content. He said, start with a book. Start by writing a book. And so I came out of there with a really just a desire to do what he said, to go build my brand. Because, you know, it was funny. I said to myself, Tony Little and I would go to the fitness conference. Both of us walk in. Everybody is going to who? Tony Little, because he's the guy I put on television. What's he getting? All the new deals. Every hot new fitness product was going to Tony Little because he was the face of that, and I built his brand. Kevin Harrington wasn't getting anything. And so I'm building all these other people's businesses until I decided, yes, hey, we are all entrepreneurs here, right? And building your brand is important. And so I'm going to spend the next couple of minutes talking about that. Because this is what I focused on, was writing books, creating content. I actually put together an actionable business plan. And I said, you know, what are the things that I can do to make this happen? So, you know, yes, I wrote a book, okay? And my very first book was this one here called Act Now. And this is the one coming out of my meeting with Richard Branson, how I turn ideas into $1 million products. So now, you know, I got the book. The co-author is this guy, William Simon. He had written Steve Jobs' #1 bestseller called Icon. I paid him a lot of money to write my book. And boom, we came out with it. I'm on talk shows. I'm doing radio shows. I'm on 5 radio shows. I'm on 25. I'm on 50. This is kind of before podcasting, by the way. So podcasting wasn't big, so I did over 100 radio shows. And now what was leading from that, I do Mancow in Chicago, huge radio show, if anyone knows that. We get all over the place now. Chicago Tribune's calling. They want a story. Then I'm at the Chicago Houseware Show. They want me to speak. So this started this huge, just crescendo of opportunities. And this is the biggest one that happened, because I didn't realize how many people were actually paying attention to all of this, right? Well, there was one very important person, Mark Burnett. He called and said, Kevin, I'm seeing you everywhere. He said, I want to meet you. He said, I'm doing a new show, and you might be right for it. And I said, can you tell me anything about it, Mark? He said, look, you got to come out here to my office, sign an NDA. It's a new show called Shark Tank. I'll tell you about it when you get here. And I said, man, I'll be there. Thank you. So I got off the phone. I told my wife, I said, Crystal, I said, Mark Burnett just called and wants me to come out. He's doing this new TV show. And she said, oh my God, that's pretty cool. She said, the Mark Burnett, you know, that guy? And I said, yeah. And she said, what's it all about? I said, he won't tell me over the phone. He said, it's called Shark Tank. She said, oh, no wonder he's not going to tell you. What does he do to those people on that Survivor show? And you want to be on Shark Tank? Okay. I'm like, oh, wow, what's Shark Tank? Shark Tank doesn't sound like a business show, right? I mean, it sounds like a fishing show on Discovery Channel, to be honest with you, right? So anyway, I get out to Mark, says, oh, no, this is not a fishing show. Entrepreneurs and inventors, they get 3 minutes to pitch, and you have 3 minutes to make up your mind. And I said, wow, that's what I do every day, Mark. He said, what do you mean? I said, I go to the houseware show, the hardware show, the fitness show, the beauty show, the toy show, the PGA golf show, etc. And what do? I take pitches. I've taken tens of thousands of pitches up until that time, and now it's way more. But Mark said yes. He said, let's do this. And so I did a little screen test right then and there, and the producer said, Kevin, shouldn't say this, but we've done dozens of these with dozens of potential sharks, and I've never seen anybody as good as that performance just now. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good. Well, why? Because that's what I did for a living. I took pitches. Barbara Corcoran had never taken a pitch from somebody wanting money for a product. Neither had Damon John and even Herjavec. No, I mean, O'Leary was a little bit out there in the market, but I'm the guy that's launched hundreds of products, et cetera. So it was a perfect fit. So writing the book was the first step. It got me the phone call from Mark Burnett. Had I not decided to build my brand, I can tell you right now, I would not be sitting on this stage right now because nobody would know who I am, and I wouldn't be the original shark, because that's when they called me a couple of days later and said, you are the first shark we're picking, and let's go. And so I had a lot of fun with this, and I said, yes, writing books is good, but we got to do more. How do you take it? So let's talk about building your brand, right? The book was the first step. And of course, I think I said, this book here called Mentor to Millions, I'm going to tell you what we did recently. This just launched here in the last year, and it went to number 2 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. I'm going to tell you how we did that, all right? And it's part of this brand building experience. I wrote a book, How to Become a Key Person of Influence in Your Industry. And it's a 5-step system. You follow the system, and this is what literally I followed, leaving Mark Burnett's office, writing books, writing content, creating things, et cetera, et cetera. So, so this was my first step, but beyond just writing a book, how about writing, let's see, here we go. Maybe doing some partnership deals, okay? So how many know the famous Zig Ziglar? He's passed away about 10 years ago. Zig was a mentor to me, and when Zig passed, I went to the family, and I said, Tom Ziglar was a cool guy. I said, what are you doing with all the assets that Zig created? He wrote 35 books. They're in dozens of languages. He's got thousands of hours of video. He's passed now. What's the next step? They said, we don't really have a plan. Someone wants it, we sell it. I said, let's re-release it all. Let's do a venture. We formed a venture. We started re-releasing all of his assets, all of his videos, all of his books. And here's the first one, Secrets of Closing the Sale, revised and updated, Zig Ziglar with Kevin Harrington. Now, the greatest part of this story is when Zig died, everyone wanted to leave a tribute, but he had never been involved in social media. He had no Facebook page or anything, but the family said, it's real easy if you leave a message on Zig's Facebook page. How many Facebook followers does Zig Ziglar have? 5.1 million. The deceased Zig Ziglar has 5+ million people. So what did I do as an entrepreneur? I took his assets, repurposed them, and sold them to his followers. And we did this with dozens of other products and videos. And again, supercharging my brand to anybody that ever knew Zig Ziglar. So think about not only writing a book, but partnering with someone to write a book. Then you're going to want to go speak when you're promoting your book. So I started, as I was launching books, I'm speaking. I've started speaking literally, before COVID, 150 days a year of speaking on the road, 250 days. The houseware show, the hardware show, the fitness show, the consumer electronics show. Last night I was speaking in Las Vegas. I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning to get home to be here today. So this is what I do, and is now post-COVID, not near as much as I used to, but the bottom line is that this started catapulting my brand, and Shark Tank was also a big part of it. And we talked about podcasting. 100 million people every month listen to a podcast. You need to be doing it. I know I've heard many of you that are already on podcasts. How many have their own podcast? 1, 2, 3. Great. quite a few. That's really cool. I love it. And so, let me say this though, because I mentioned the book that I promoted called Mentor to Millions. The publisher said, hey, look, will you do 100 podcasts to promote this book? And I said, absolutely, I will. And so I started, and I said, yeah, you could just call a podcast company, send them an email. What's the best way to get on, right? You got to contact them. But I said, no, I'm going to do something different. I said to the publisher, what is the #1 podcaster in the world, in America, wherever, right? Oh, well, they got back, and you can Google it and you'll see Adam Carolla is the most downloaded podcast. What did I do? I shot a video to Adam Carolla. Hey, Adam, it's Kevin Harrington here, original shark from Shark Tank. I've got a new book on mentoring. I've had many mentors that have been amazing resources in my life, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for those mentors. I'll bet you've got a few mentors in your life, and my new book, Mentor to Millions, I'd love to be on your podcast. We can share some stories. Tell me what you think. Boom. Little video right to Adam Carolla. Didn't know if I was even going to hear back from him. 2 hours later, they booked me on his podcast. Not only did I do an hour-long podcast with him, he called me a month later and said, Kevin, we had such great results. I want you on a second time. And of course, now that we had done the #1 podcast in the world, filling it in from there, I did 100. And then when the 100 was done, the publisher said, well, that was quick. You did 100 pretty, we're before launch still. Can you do some more? We did 90 plus more podcasts. And that's what catapulted us to #2 on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, by the way. So I love podcasting. And is it Vinny? Is Vinny here? You're going to be talking about it tomorrow, right? Huge. Okay, so thank you for that. But just a couple more quick ones, and we're going to wrap up here. So I have a different investment interests, and people said, how do you build your brand on a local level, right? And because it's very difficult. You can't just go to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, NBC, the Today Show, and say, I want to be, on your show, or write a story about me, right? So what you have to do is you have to kind of create some momentum. And so one of the things, podcast creates momentum, but folks don't realize how cheap old media is, okay? So radio, for example. I have a company that's in the roofing business, and we buy for 1 month, we own 30 minutes twice a week on an AM talk show, big station, Saturday morning and Sunday morning, twice a week, 30 minutes. You know what that cost us? Under $1,000 for the whole month. Blasting 30 minutes every time. We're getting massive amounts of leads. We're building the brand of our company called RoofMax here in Tampa, Florida. And why is it so cheap? Because they can't sell advertising on weekends, and they sell infomercial space. So you buy a 30-minute infomercial on radio for pennies. I mean, it's close to $100 an airing for 30 minutes, all right? So we're using radio to build brands. This company I have is called RoofMax. We have 600 dealers. I own 10% of that company as an investment that I made. And they don't replace your roof, they rejuvenate the shingles on your roof because they've lost their oils as the hot sun has baked them out, and they get brittle. And we replenish that new-like feeling into the roof. So we've started doing all of these things. We go on radio. We do the next. Hey, it's pretty simple to understand. When the pandemic first hit, 40 million people were unemployed. Where are 40 million unemployed people? At home, okay? And what are they doing at home? Watching television, on the internet. Internet usage, television usage, there's a term called HUT levels, H-U-T, households using television. It shot through the roof. I mentioned Carl Deichler of Beachbody. He was spending millions and millions of dollars a week. What was he doing? Giving away free subscriptions to Beachbody because he was getting customer acquisition for 1/10 the cost that he was getting pre-COVID. So old media is, everybody is watching television during COVID, right? And so this is when we started with television, radio. This is called daytime TV. This girl was my travel agent, Elite Travel, and I got her on. Has anyone ever heard of daytime television in Tampa, Florida? It's a 1-hour show. It's an advertorial show. You buy a 4-minute slot on that show for between $1,000 and $1,500. You own it. And so I went in and I took Tammy down there and I said, Tammy, I think we could get it for free. Let's create a marketing program to the station. You're going to give away a free trip and you're going to be the travel agent of choice. And they ended up doing a 13-week deal with Tammy as their travel agent of choice. It just supercharged her brand and her business and just crushed it. And it was for a couple $1,000s, not tens of thousands of dollars. So there's 3 shows in Tampa, Florida that are under the same format. They call them advertorial supported shows. Car dealers can talk about their new cars. Plastic surgeons can talk about their new procedures. For 4 minutes, $1,000, you own that time. And we even barter now. I've been on there a few times in a creative way where, sometimes you don't even have to pay at all. So again, getting back to what was happening, COVID was forcing changes in viewership on the internet, on TV, and listening habits. And so we started getting all these things rolling way back. And so not only, look, I said TV and radio is increased during COVID also, but so did social media and social marketing. So building social proof, personalized ads, audience engagement, every single social media outlet, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, huge. We blow huge numbers on TikTok. Parlor, for example. By the way, I have a CBD company that I'm a partner in. It's called Medical Mary. And we can't advertise on Facebook or Instagram, but we're advertising on Parlor because we found some new ways to get in on the ground floor there. So the bottom line is social media has been a big part of our growth, and we do our focus now, it's not the old as seen on TV way. I sold all those as seen on TV assets 9 years ago. I'm going to tell you just real quick about that. But the bottom line is that when you're generating all this action, like, okay, so I'm on radio, I'm on television, I'm doing keynote speeches. How do you capture the information? You need to create a lead magnet. And Brandon, is anybody going to be getting into this at all during the next day or so, or has anyone talked about kind of the digital stuff? Because I don't need to hit this if you're talking about it already. Yeah, so like for me, I have a lead magnet book called it's this thick. It looks like a book, but it's called Create Your Perfect Pitch, How to Create a Perfect Pitch. And so when I'm on a radio talk show, I'd say for anyone that would like a free book on creating a great pitch, click here, and now we're collecting all kinds of data. And so let's say you're a real estate agent and if you're a real estate agent, first thing I recommend you do is go buy that 30 minutes of time on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning from 9 to 9:30 for about $150, okay? Get 30 minutes, interview people, and now you could be sending people, you need a home buyer guide, a free home evaluation, a relocation guide. Come to this, call this number, go to this website, and these are called lead magnets. So this is part of this strategy. So basically, my industry has shifted, right? And I mentioned 9 years ago, I sold all of the As Seen on TV assets. And let me explain what happened. I built, remember, $550 million public company, and everything had been going like this. But all of a sudden, individual products would have their bell-shaped curve. But if you keep launching more products, your business should continue to expand. But it was going like this. The reason being is I owned AsSeenOnTV.com, As Seen on TV Inc., hundreds of As Seen on TV websites, but there was a huge decline in television viewership. This is pre-COVID now. 50% of viewers had left television because they were on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Netflix and the digital other channels. So I said to myself, I'm going to sell it all, and I'm going to focus on something new. And I mentioned this when Brandon was asking me about, kind of like, what is success? And for me, it was being able to help other people. So the very first deal that I did, exiting out of my as seen in TV assets, sold them all to a public company for way more than I paid for them. So again, I made a nice return on that at a time when I knew that the asset was declining. And it's declined by 80% more after I sold it to the people that I know that own it. So the bottom line is that there are new ways to do marketing. And let me just touch on a few of these, and then I'm going to explain the one story about Celsius I mentioned I'm going to save till the end. So let's put it this way. Here's a company called Glossier. How many people have ever heard of that company? It's okay. Billion-dollar brand. Started digital first. They used Instagram. And they had 1.7 million followers. But they didn't do as seen on TV. No, there's a change in the market, right? I got out at the right time because I realized that people are using social media and all the things that we talked about. And I mean, here's another BarkBox. They didn't use as seen on TV to create a $250 million company. They used Instagram followers. But this is the most clever thing they did. They incentivized their customers to actually open the box while their dog was there, interacting with them and filming it and then sending it to their followers. Unbelievable. 600,000 customer videos built a $250 million business. They didn't spend a dime on television, okay? So I'm like, wow, what's going on here? The world has changed, right? And so I said to myself, this company, 9 years ago, this is a company called Celsius. Has anyone heard of Celsius before? Oh, a handful of, thank you, right? I drink one every day, and I can't drink two because it's powerful. But so this company comes to me, they had a patent, and they had clinical studies that allowed them to make the claim, you drink one can of Celsius, it will burn 140 calories in your body, all right? So I said, wow, this is an unbelievable product. I'm gonna put my brand behind it and others. And so first stop I made, I take my son, we get in the car, we go down to go meet my buddy Flo Rida. And we're in this industrial area, we can't find Flo's. We're like, where in the heck is Flo? Couldn't see addresses and this. We go by this one street. Oh, wait, what's that? Oh, it's a gold Bugatti over there, okay? I think we found Flo's office, okay? So we brought Flo in, and my son was blown away with all this. And so here's Flo's original video.
Get a good feeling.
It's behind the scenes, that strobe a little bit.
I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Celsius gives you healthy energy and is clinically proven to burn 100 calories or more in every serving.
Yeah.
So we were shipping Flo dozens of cases of Celsius, right? And he's like, Kevin, he says, we love this. I drink it every day. I go everywhere. In fact, can you send 5 cases to Khloe Kardashian? She loves it too. And I think I could get her to do some stuff. She's tweeting and sending out videos for zero money. We didn't pay her a dime. And all of a sudden, we now are supercharging this company, fitness, Instagram influencers. We have thousands of them, right? So this company started, we took it public. It started out, when I had the very first meeting, it was 10 cents a share. I joined, it was 22 cents a share, a couple $1 million company. And boy, it grew to $3.65. And my wife is like, you got a ton of stock, sell it. You're making a lot of money. I'm like, no, not yet. This thing's going. Got to $10 a share, started taking off. And this is the date on this. I don't know where it is, if it's on there. But anyway, it's now at $10. Sell. No, it's still going, I said to my wife, right? Well, $74 a share. Now we're into billions of dollars in value. And by the way, if you check today, it's $94 a share, $7.3 billion company from zero. And it's not a dime of money went on TV. We utilized everything I'm talking about here, building your brand. Pandora radio. We used some old media kind of thing, but Pandora's a little bit newer. But we used radio, we used Instagram influencers, we used marketing campaigns in the local markets, really grassroots type things, and we created a $7 billion company out of this. So I feel confident that when I get involved with companies, and the other thing that I did along the way here, I helped. I brought in a company called Maxim Investment Bank out of New York, and when the stock was approaching 980, I said to Maxim, we need $75 million, and they said, good, we'll sell 10 million shares at $7 a share. They did, and that was 18 months ago. So now imagine this. Maxim, they're the company that brought all their clients to the table, and they bought the stock at $7 a share 18 months ago, and it's now 90 some dollars. Maxim is like, hey, what other deals do you have? We're going to finance anything you got now, Kevin. So now I've got them in several other deals. I've 9 years I spent with this company, and just recently retired from the board because you can only be on so long. So, but now I'm in some new beverage company opportunities. So, make a long story short, this has been a lot of fun for me, and creating. The best and biggest success I've ever had was this most recent one, and it wasn't even in the world that I came from as seen on TV. So you just never know where things are going to change. And again, getting with the right mentors and hanging out with the right people can be the difference to making that happen. So becoming a key person of influence, it's a 5-step plan in the book, but I actually have added a few steps to it, and I have a gift for everybody here today. Go to kevinharrington.info/KPI, and you get a free digital copy of my book, Becoming a Key Person of Influence. So that's the message that I really wanted to leave everybody here today. Just kind of have the last couple thoughts. The old days for me was like this guy right here, Rupert Murdoch. He doesn't look too happy. Why? He founded Fox. He had to sell it. Why? Because I mentioned television viewership was what? Dropping by 50%. And his kids were coming up. He's in his 80s. He said, I can't trust the kids to do it. He sold to Disney, right? So changes are happening. I used to give him $10 million a year for my infomercials. We give him zero, and he's gone anyway. But that's the old way. I don't do it that way anymore. The old culture is a few channels that broadcast to millions, right? But the new way is millions of channels that broadcast to a few. And that's what the internet is all about, and that's why these social media channels, and I mentioned, from the TikToks to the parlors to the next new parlor that launches, whatever it does, we're going to be in on the ground floor and make it happen. So I want to thank Brandon for allowing me to share my story, because, I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't followed the advice that my mentors gave me. And Richard Branson's funny. He and I still exchange emails and back and forth, inviting me to different things and all of that. And I love it. And I don't think he even understands how powerful the advice he gave me was. But when I got back home and executed and put a business plan together on executing my brand building, it changed my life and ultimately ended up getting me on the Shark Tank show. So I think for those that are interested in experiencing all of this, obviously the mastermind that we're putting on is going to be very powerful, and hopefully you'll have a chance to be part of that with us. For those that are on the fence, not sure, I have 4 last words of wisdom from another buddy of mine, and he lives locally, and we partner on a lot of deals. We're doing a new deal together right now. It's my buddy Tony Little, and this is the 4 words. You can do it! You can do it! You can do it! You can do it! Thank you for having me today. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Brandon.